In our last session, we talked about Earth as a massive interconnected system, how the geosphere, hydrosphere, and atmosphere all interact. Now, we're going to add the most complex piece to that system, us. This standard, HS-ESS3-1, is all about the other side of the coin. It's not just how Earth works, but how Earth's processes directly control, guide, and influence human activity. We're going to explore how the planet itself has acted like a director, telling humanity where to stand, what to build, and what to watch out for. The official standard, HS-ESS3-1, asks us to build an explanation, a cause and effect story. It wants us to connect the dots. How does cause A, the availability of natural resources, lead to effect B, where humans build cities? We'll break it down into 3 parts. First, we'll look at resources like water and oil. Second, we'll look at natural hazards like earthquakes and hurricanes. And third, we'll look at the influence of climate, both in the past and today. This is the core of human geography. I like to call this concept the Geologic Lottery. Think about it. Where a civilization springs up isn't an accident. It's the result of winning a kind of lottery. When the first humans started to settle down, did they win the jackpot with perfect soil, fresh water, and no hazards? Or did they settle in a place that has gold, but also massive earthquakes? The story of human history, our entire economic, political, and technological development, is shaped by the random hand our planet dealt us. Let's start with Part 1, Natural Resources. These are just any materials from Earth we find useful. Think of Earth as a giant supermarket. Some aisles have renewable goods, like sunlight, wind, or trees, which the store restocks on its own. Other aisles have non-renewable goods, like coal or copper. Once you take them off the shelf, they're gone for good, or at least for millions of years. The most important rule in human history is that people build their homes next to the aisles they need most. The location of these resources is the #1 factor that has influenced human settlement. What's the one resource we absolutely cannot live without? Water. It's no surprise then that human civilization is a water-based phenomenon. If you look at a satellite photo of Earth at night, what do you see? The lights aren't spread out evenly. They are clustered in bright lines and dots. Those lines are rivers: the Nile, the Mississippi, the Yangtze. The dots are natural harbors and coastlines. We live by the hydrosphere. Our species followed the water, and we still do. This influence of water creates 2 different human responses. The first, and most common, is to follow the water. The ancient Egyptian civilization is the classic example. Their entire culture, religion, and economy was built around the predictable flooding of the Nile River. The Nile was the resource, and human activity conformed to it. But then you have a place like Las Vegas. This is the opposite. It's a massive city built in the middle of a bone-dry desert. This is only possible because of massive 20th century human engineering that pulls water from hundreds of miles away. In both cases, the availability or lack of water was the primary factor influencing human action. After water, the next big resource is fertile soil. This resource from the geosphere is what allowed us to stop being nomads and become farmers. This was the single biggest change in human history, the agricultural revolution. And just like with water, it only happened in specific places. You can't build a large permanent city if you can't feed people. The Fertile Crescent in the Middle East, or the breadbasket of the American Midwest, are places where the geology and climate came together to create rich soil. This resource directly caused the formation of the first cities. Now let's jump forward in history. Think about the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s. Why did it start in places like England or Pennsylvania? Was it an accident? No, It was because those places were sitting on top of massive, easy-to-reach coal deposits. The factories were built at the resource. This pattern continues today. The California gold rush of 1849 was a massive human migration influenced by the discovery of one mineral. Even today, we call the center of our tech industry Silicon Valley. It's named after the mineral that makes computer chips possible. The location of resources dictates our economy. So, to wrap up resources, human history is not random. Our population maps are a direct reflection of the planet's geology. We cluster where there's water. We build big populations where there's fertile soil. We build industries where there's energy and minerals. And when we don't have a resource, that lack of a resource influences us to either trade, innovate, or go to war. Now for part 2, natural hazards. If resources are the prizes Earth gives us, hazards are the penalties. These are just natural parts of the Earth system, tectonic plates moving, the atmosphere spinning up a storm, that happen to be dangerous to us. We can sort them into 2 groups. Geologic hazards are things like earthquakes and volcanoes, which come from the geosphere. Weather and climate hazards are things like hurricanes, tornadoes, and droughts, which come from the atmosphere and hydrosphere. Here's the interesting part. A lot of the best places to live are also the most dangerous. This is the risk versus reward paradox. Why would millions of people live on the slopes of a volcano? Because that same volcano, a hazard, has created incredibly fertile soil, a resource. Why do we build our biggest cities on rivers and coasts? Because they are fantastic for trade and resources, the reward. But they are also the exact same places that flood, the risk. Human activity is constantly influenced by this trade-off. Let's look at earthquakes. The Ring of Fire around the Pacific Ocean is a massive plate boundary. It's home to cities like Tokyo, Los Angeles, and Santiago, Chile. The hazard of earthquakes is a daily reality. So how has this hazard influenced human activity? People don't leave. Instead, their activity changes. It drives innovation. We are forced to invent new technologies, like flexible building codes and early warning systems. If you see a building in Tokyo that's built on what looks like giant roller skates, called base isolation, you are looking at a piece of technology that exists only because of this natural hazard. It's the same story with floods. Humans are drawn to water, but that water isn't always peaceful. In places like New Orleans, which is built on a river delta below sea level, or the Netherlands, a country that is famously low, the hazard of flooding is constant. This hazard has profoundly influenced human activity. It's not an accident that the Dutch are the world's best water engineers. They had to be. Their entire country is a testament to human adaptation, with a massive system of levees, dikes, and pumps. That engineering is the human activity influenced by the hazard. So, the takeaway for hazards is that they force us to adapt and innovate. We can't stop the tectonic plates. We can't stop hurricanes from forming. So, the hazard influences us to develop new engineering, new science, and new public policies, like zoning laws that say you can't build a house right on this fault line. Finally, let's talk about climate. Climate is the long-term weather pattern, and it has always been a primary driver of human history. The most famous example is the last ice age. About 20,000 years ago, so much of the world's water was locked up in ice sheets that sea levels were hundreds of feet lower. This exposed a land bridge of dry land between Asia and North America. This change in the hydrosphere and atmosphere influenced a massive human migration. It's the only reason people are in the Americas at all. We are, in a very real sense, all the children of past climate change. Even on a daily local level, climate influences our behavior. Think about architecture. Why do you see so many log cabins in snowy places? The steep A-frame roof is designed to shed snow. That's an adaptation to a climate hazard. Why are so many houses in the hot Greek islands painted white? To reflect sunlight and stay cool. Climate dictates what crops we can grow. You can't have a banana plantation in Canada. It even shapes our culture. The siesta, or midday nap, in hot countries like Spain isn't because people are lazy. It's a smart cultural adaptation to avoid the most dangerous heat of the day. But this brings us to the biggest challenge: modern anthropogenic human-caused climate change. For all of history, the Earth's climate influenced us and we adapted. Now, for the first time, our activity, burning fossil fuels, which we do for energy, a resource, is changing the atmosphere. This is creating a feedback loop. We are changing the climate. And now, that changing climate is beginning to influence us in new ways. This is the biggest human-Earth system interaction of our time. So how are we responding? Our activities are now being influenced by this new reality. We are being forced to adapt. Cities like Miami and New York are spending billions of dollars to build higher seawalls to deal with rising sea levels. Farmers in the Midwest are planting new, more drought-resistant corn. That is a direct influence on our economy and agricultural activity. We are also being influenced to mitigate or stop the problem. This is why you see a massive shift in human activity towards renewable energy like solar and wind. These new technologies are being developed in response to the changes we are seeing in the climate system. This all shows that we are not separate from Earth. We are part of its system. This standard, HS-ESS3-1, is all about how the Earth influences us, through its resources, its hazards, and its climate. But as we've just seen, this is now a two-way street. Our activities, our search for resources, our solutions to hazards, are now so large-scale that we are influencing the Earth right back. We are a geologic force in our own right, shaping the atmosphere, the hydrosphere, and the biosphere. So, to sum up HS-ESS3-1, the story of humanity is the story of adaptation. We are who we are, and we live where we live because of the Geologic Lottery. The planet's resources, like water and soil, act as magnets, pulling human populations to them. The planet's hazards, like earthquakes and floods, act as teachers, forcing us to innovate and engineer new solutions. And the planet's climate, both past and present, acts as a set of rules, guiding our culture, our architecture, and our entire way of life.